Your first glance at the S23 Ultra, you might say that looks exactly the same as the S22 Ultra. So why even upgrade? Well, even though it has the same design, same S Pen, and even similar colors, it's actually completely different on the inside, and the difference is huge. So let me show you that although this big boy looks exactly the same, don't be fooled, because this is the most powerful Android in the world right now. Straight off the bat, the biggest improvement when it comes to the Ultra are the cameras. Samsung managed to fit a 200 megapixel camera in it. That's a 200 million pixel camera, almost 2 times bigger than the S22 Ultra. Crazy. So to really check these cameras out and put them to the test, I headed into London and took a bunch of shots. With the 200 megapixel camera, not only do you get more resolution in your pictures, but also a brighter and more color accurate shot. Basically, every picture I took with this camera was amazing, but do be warned, because these pictures take up a ton of space. So if you're going to be taking high-res shots, definitely go for the larger storage option. And then for those of you who are expert photographers, you're going to be super happy to know that Expert RAW is now built straight into the camera app, which, if you didn't know, allows you to control every aspect when it comes to taking a picture, like your ISO, your speed, as well as focus. And the nice thing is you can really edit the heck out of these pictures afterwards. Then I was really blown away by Astro Photo Mode. So this is also found within Expert RAW. You can choose to see a star map, and these pictures I took were in complete darkness. The Astro Hyperlapse mode was equally insane to me and even showed these star trails. And I honestly cannot fault the night shots this camera takes. And then once you've taken your pictures, auto crop is a brand new feature where if you click and hold down, it separates your subject from the background. So you can save this as a new PNG image. It's not completely accurate, but it's still pretty epic. But besides being great at photography, Samsung said that this phone's video cameras are so good, it's like cinema quality. So I had to put that to the test. So apparently the S23 Ultra is so good at taking video that Samsung even hired 2 award-winning directors to film movies with this phone, which is so wild but also not much of a surprise because features like the stabilization are just insane. Here you can see how much more stable the S23 is compared to the S22, and I mean, I've tested a couple of phones and none of them seem to be as good as this. So the main camera can still shoot in 8K, which is 16 times bigger than 1080p and 4 times bigger than 4K. Man. But the major difference between the S23 and S22 Ultra's video is that the camera on the S23 can automatically detect and adjust dark and light areas more like the human eye, making it act like a cinema camera. But how does the S23 Ultra's video cameras actually compare to a $35,000 cinema camera that is used to make real blockbuster movies? So I actually tested this by rigging the S23 Ultra to a red V-Raptor, and we set up the shot to test the lighting on both these cameras so we could really see the difference. So here's what the 8K footage looked like from the Samsung S23 Ultra, and here is what it looked like from the red V-Raptor. We tried to color grade them as close together as possible, but here you can actually see the difference between the dynamic range, the texture, color, and even bokeh. I mean, not bad for a camera that fits in your pocket. And then believe it or not, this tiny camera in the front can shoot 4K at 60 frames per second. Again, I put this to the test, and here you can see the difference between the back and front selfie camera, both in 4K. I was pretty impressed. I mean, a 200 megapixel main camera, 8K cinema quality, and a 4K selfie cam. I mean, how much better is smartphone tech actually gonna get? Now, one of the things that really separate this phone from the rest is the S Pen. So as you can imagine, Samsung practically owned the pen market, and that's probably why nothing's really changed with it. I was really hoping for some new S Pen features, but I guess after 13 years of it being around, they're done. So you still get all your air gestures, which I'm not gonna lie, are actually really nifty. You also get Smart Select, which allows you to select any part of your screen, save it as a screenshot, and even draw on it. You can of course still take notes, make doodles, and all that jazz. Plus, there's a ton of other features you get all within the S Pen menu. One thing I also hear from people time and time again who use the S Pen is once you start using it, it's really hard to stop. But now, let me show you how blazing fast this thing has become. So compared to the previous model, the S23 Ultra is a lot more powerful. The faster performance is definitely more noticeable in things like powering on the phone. As you can see, the S23 Ultra is on way faster than the S22, which is only behind by a couple of seconds, but still. I also tested the speed and performance by launching Call of Duty on both the phones, and interestingly, the S23 was only ahead again by a couple of seconds. Either way, you can play any game on this phone, and I'm pretty sure you will experience any lag or frame stuttering. And for professional use, I also tried exporting a quick little clip I just edited on both phones with the exact same footage, same cut, same everything. And again, when exporting, the S23 was faster, but not by a heck of a lot. So this new Snapdragon 8 Gen 2 chip inside here is amazing. And although you will find it in other phones, the ones inside the S23s were made specifically for it, and it's the fastest out of them all. That's kinda ultra. Now, although the S23 Ultra looks so similar to the previous S22, there are some slight differences that do make a pretty big difference. The S23 is actually a lot more square and gives it a way more premium feel. It's way easier to grip, and I personally prefer the boxier design. The S Pen is also more square and a lot less circular like the previous model. Subtle differences, but nice. And when I even asked if you guys could tell the difference between these two phones, surprisingly, a lot of you could. I'm impressed. The color options also changed slightly with more pastel neutral options, but if you wanted something a bit more funky, you can check out the website because they actually have a couple other really cool colors to choose from. Speaking of the design, the S23 Ultra comes with a fresh new One UI 5.1 update with tons of customization, literally so much I had to make an entire video about it. You gotta check it out. Now, the screen on the S23 Ultra remains pretty much unchanged as well. But to be fair, it's kind of okay because not only is Samsung the best in the world when it comes to making displays, but this particular one is not only the most color accurate, it's also the brightest screen on any Android phone. I mean, that's a pretty big deal. So in case you were wondering, this is one of the nicest smartphones to watch movies on. And when it came to app animations or navigating the phone, I was expecting it to be slightly smoother, but there wasn't much of a difference. So obviously the S23 Ultra is great for shooting movies as well as watching them, but the question is, can the battery last long enough to do both? Well, it turns out with 100% battery, you can get a lot of hours of use. So this is probably what's got to be one of the biggest pros when it comes to the new chip in this phone, because not only is it powerful, but it's also really efficient, because you can get up to 12.5 hours of full use. I mean, it is guaranteed to last you a full day of use and maybe even 2 or 3 days of limited use. 3 days. And when I plugged it into charge, it went from about 0 to 60% in just 30 minutes, which is not the fastest in the world, but if you do want fast charging like this, just make sure you get a 45-watt charging brick. And another really cool thing about the S23 Ultra is you now get these epic battery widgets. So you can keep a sharp eye on what tech of yours needs some extra juice, whether it's the Galaxy Watch or Buds. Now, besides the S23 Ultra, you also get the Plus and base model, and you're probably wondering, what's the difference? Well, the Ultra is the flagship of the bunch and comes with the most features. You get the best battery life, an S Pen, up to 1 terabyte of storage with 12 gigs of RAM, 200 megapixels and an extra camera, a bigger screen, and also a few extra color options. Nice. And Samsung have some insane trade-in deals. So in future, if you do ever want to trade this puppy in, you'll get the most value out of it. So because this is the most powerful and advanced Android phone in the world right now, it does come at a price. And it's a pretty hefty starting price, but I mean, all considered, you do get the very best specs. So in the States, it starts at $11.99, which is exactly how much the S22 cost when it was first released. But because the S23 is now out, you can probably pick up the 22 for around $7.99. Man, I actually daily an iPhone 14 Pro Max, and to be completely honest with you guys, this is the first time I have seriously considered switching to the Ultra. Anyways, if you want to see some brand new S23 Ultra tips and tricks, then hit that subscribe button, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Toodles!